Oh, good afternoon. We are going to go over chapter 21, and chapter 21 is the variety in the world of invertebrates. We are going to go over this chapter today. I don't know how far we are going to get. I'm not going to take up any more class time than normal, but what I do want to do, which is out of the ordinary for you, is maybe go about an hour here on today's lesson and then have you come back on Thursday where I will post a new video and have you go over that. That will then finish up chapter 21. It will also give us a review for zoology, and that way it ensures that when we do get together we can complete the 3 remaining dissections that we have on zoology. So before we actually begin, I would like for you to have your notebook. I'd like for you to have notebook paper and a writing utensil so that you can take notes and follow along. I am going to grade you on your notes for today and for Thursday if I do need to use that time to make a video for Thursday. I am going to grade you on your notes, so please make sure that you are taking neat notes. If you need to rewrite them so that I can read what you wrote, then that's what you need to do. You can pause this video at any time while you're watching, so it's not like you need to rush through what I am saying. You'll be able to pause it, write it down, and then play it again, listen to it again, and make sure that you have complete and accurate notes. Right. As we begin, we're going to talk about mollusks in this chapter. So what are mollusks? Well, mollusks are the largest water animals on Earth. They are soft-body, boneless creatures. All right, and examples of mollusks would be clams, oysters, slugs, snails, squids, and octopus. All right, so if we want to look at some of the characteristics of mollusks, we already said that they were soft-bodied. They're invertebrates. All right. They are covered with a protective coating, or a protective mantle, I'm sorry, that may or may not form a hard calcium carbonate shell. So it may or may not be hard. So it's no different than when we looked at the crawfish versus the grasshopper, and we looked at their exoskeletons and we said, oh, okay, well the crawfish exoskeleton is much harder than that of the grasshopper. And so we're seeing the same thing here as a characteristic of the mollusk. Their protective mantle may or may not be hard. It is the second largest animal phylum. Do you remember what we called the largest animal phylum? What did we call the largest animal phylum? So why don't you on your notebook paper just write down the largest animal phylum equals, okay, and write your answer down. And if you wrote down arthropods, you are correct. Okay, but the second largest is the mollusks. All right. Another characteristic of a mollusk is that they have a muscular foot, and that muscular foot is used for movement. All right. And when we're looking at octopus or squid, that muscular foot is modified into the form of like tentacles. So the tentacles is actually what's moving around. So most mollusks are marine. Some gastropods and bivalves. Bivalve meaning just a shell that has 2 valves, 2. Okay, bi is 2. All right. Some bivalves inhabit fresh water, and a few gastropods, slugs, and snails are terrestrial, meaning they like to be on Earth. All right. So how do humans use mollusks? Well, we use mollusks for food in the form of mussels, clams, oysters, calamari, octopus, escargot. Escargot is snails. People consume that. And then also as pearls, which are formed in oysters and clams. Their shiny inner layer of some shells used to make buttons. Okay. Alright. And then we're going to learn about some of the mollusk pests that are out there, like shipworms, terrestrial snails and slugs, okay, and the damage that they can do, and zebra mussels. So we're going to look at those in just a little bit, but for now we're going to look at the mollusk. The body plan of a mollusk, or the structure of a mollusk. They all have a body plan with three main parts, a body structure with three main parts. Okay, those three parts are the muscular foot, which we just talked about. It allows them to be locomotive, to have locomotion. They can move. They have a visceral mass, and that visceral mass that the mollusk has is actually containing digestive, circulatory, respiratory, and reproductive organs. So it contains all of that. And then there's a mantle, and that houses the gills, and in some it secretes a protective shell over the visceral mass. So the mantle actually houses the gills, and then in some it secretes a protective shell over the visceral mass. So there are three main parts to a mollusk, and you should know them as the muscular foot, the visceral hump, and a mantle. Alright, let's look here and see what my notes have. Let's see here. Alright. The mollusks, according to your book, are divided into 6 parts, or I'm sorry, 6 classes, and those are gastropods, okay, which just means like stomach-footed. We're going to go over this in a little bit. Bivalves, cephalopods, which would be head-footed, monoplacophores, polyplacophores, and scaphopods. Scaphopods are like tooth-shelled mollusks. So monoplacophores is spelled MONOPLACOPHORES. MONOPLACOPHORES. And the polyplacophores is POLYPLACOPHORES. And then the cephalopods are SCAPHOPODS. SCAPHOPODS. And I spelled those for you because your book does not discuss them or talk about them or even classify them for you, other than saying that there are 6 classes, but they only discuss gastropods, bivalves, and cephalopods. So I just wanted you to know that the 6 are there. The shells of a mollusk are, it's like a horn-like shape of the outer layer. The inner layer is a crystalline middle layer, and then the third layer is a pearly inner layer. Okay, and it just says in some oysters this is mother of pearl, a mineral deposit. So in some, I have to read that in its context there, but just saying that in some layers that this would be called the mother of pearl. The inner shell layer of some inedible oysters and clams is called the mother of pearl. Alright, so let's just look here. Okay, the mollusk has a strong abductor muscle. It keeps the bivalve together. Scallops and mussels, this is the only part of them that is eaten. So the abductor muscle of the scallop and muscles, the organism muscles, meaning not the organ muscle, but anyway, of scallops and mussels, this is the only part of them that is eaten, the abductor muscle. Okay. Oysters and clams, the abductor muscle and the visceral organs are eaten. So just a little difference there. Now, how does water get into and out of the mantle cavity? Well, let's look at the design or the structure of the bivalve. There are two siphon tubes. There's an in-current siphon that takes water into the mantle cavity, into the gills. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged, and then the water is passed over the excurrent siphon. Then it's passed over the excurrent siphon. The digestive system of bivalves pass right through the heart. So make sure you have that. The digestive system of bivalves pass right through the heart. The circulatory system is an open system. All right. So the blood is blue because it lacks hemoglobin. It lacks hemoglobin. So let's just go back for 1 second, and you should be able to identify the three parts of the mollusk, the body plan of the mollusk. You should be able to tell me that it is muscular footed, visceral hump, and that it has a mantle. You should know that. You should also know, now we're talking about bivalves, okay, it's still a mollusk, all right, that we're talking about, I'm sorry, yeah, two-shelled mollusks. You should be able to tell me that it has two siphons or tubes, and one is called an in-current, one is called an ex-current, and just think about the names. In-current, in comes with the current, right? In comes with the current, some water and gas that needs to be exchanged, and that happens, then it passes out through the ex-current. And the digestive system of the bivalve passes right through the heart. All right, this is just repeating what I already had said. And the circulatory system is open. The blood does lack hemoglobin, and therefore it appears blue. So the nervous system has three pair of ganglia. So that's the first time you're hearing ganglia. We haven't gone over the nervous system yet. You're going to learn much more about ganglia when we do go over the nervous system. But the ganglia connect to the nerves of the foot, and these are sensory cells. They are sensitive to touch, and they are sensitive to light, and they are sensitive to chemical changes. So these ganglia are sensitive to light, touch, and chemical changes. With mollusks, reproduction is sexual with external fertilization. Male sperm leaves the excurrent siphon and enters the female's incurrent siphon. The egg sticks to the female's gills, where it is then fertilized. Alright, so let's look at gastropods. Gastropods are just one of the classes of mollusks. Alright, gastropods, we're going to say, are snails, slugs, whelks, alboms, conchs, dowries. These are just to give you a few. Your book has them listed, so you don't have to worry if you don't get them all from me. But of the common, snails, slugs, whelks, okay. They are univalve, which means there's one shell. One shell. So the bivalves had two shells, bi meaning two, uni meaning one. So now we can look at gastropods and say they're univalves, only having one shell. They are unique in their they're unique. They are colorful. They have coiled shells. Let's see where we are. So we said that slugs are gastropods, meaning gastro, we're going to talk about the stomach, and without shells. gastropods. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that note referred to. Let me just see if I have it up here. Hold on a second. Oh, specifically just the slug. I'm sorry. So I was thinking I was talking about, okay, so gastropods, yes, there are slugs, and we're still, the slugs actually lack a shell. That's what this was. I'm sorry. All right. Now, the class Gastropoda is always univalve and may be coiled or uncoiled. Okay, it may be coiled or uncoiled. And there in your book, I'm not sure, let me just look at the page here, they're going to show you an example, the 3 examples of the shells that they have. Okay, hold on. Okay, so your book only has you being responsible for 2, and it's figure 21.5. Let's see. Okay. And just having you look at the shape of the shells there. Okay. Let's just look here. So shells may coil to the right or to the left. This is genetically controlled. Alright. Gastropoda, many snails can withdraw into the shell and close it off with a horny operculum. We saw the operculum when we looked at the fish that was covering the gills. Same thing here. This is going to provide a protective barrier for the snail as it withdraws or recedes back into its shell. Okay. When the snail, so the snail will do this when it senses danger. It will retreat, and basically it pulls the foot in and the operculum will close. Alright. Some univalves have 2 pairs of tentacles on their head, 1 pair for feeling and 1 pair for eyes. They have a mouth. The mouth has a radula. Okay, the mouth has a radula, R-A-D-U-L-A, and this is a rough file-like organ that scrapes food, and it carries food like a conveyor belt to the digestive tract. Some have thousands of teeth. Most univalves are herbivores. All right. A few univalves are carnivorous, so they will prey on fish or other mollusks, but for the most part they are herbivores. So let's look at cephalopods, and I just have to scroll here because my order is a little different. Handwritten versus typed in. So when we talk about cephalopods, we're talking about ceph being the head, and so we say head-footed, and basically it's a region that it just hasn't, it's not, doesn't look like it's too much different from where it starts to where it ends there. Cephalopods include octopus, squid, nautiluses, and cuttlefish. And marine carnivores with beak-like jaws. They are surrounded by tentacles, and again, they use their tentacles as for their movement. Let's see. So shells of the nautilus, if we look at the next page has a set of cephalopods, and you can see the shells here, all right, of the cephalopods. They are made buoyant, but there's a lot of gas chambers in the cephalopod here, and that allows them to be free-flowing or to be able to move around. The cuttlefish have a small curved shell completely enclosed by the mantle. Completely enclosed by the mantle. And squid, their shells have been reduced to a small strip called the pen, which encloses the mantle. All right, and so just go ahead and take a look at those organisms in your textbook or whatever. Let me just see what I have written here for these. So cephalopods are head-footed mollusks, or head-foot mollusks. Octopus, squid, cuttlefish. Looks like I have chambered nautilus. They do have a mantle, they have a visceral hump, and they have a foot. So again, it fits the category or the characterizations to classify them as a mollusk. The octopus is without a shell, just like the slug was without a shell. All right. Squid, they have a torpedo shape. They have undulating fins on the side of the head, which provides steady swimming. The squid have 10 tentacles to catch and hold prey, and the giant squid is the largest invertebrate. The eye of the giant squid can be 10 inches. 10 inches. That's huge for an eye. All right. They have beak-like jaws that tear their prey apart. Gills in the squid do not have cilia. Gills in the squid do not have cilia. Water and gas exchange occur through rapid movement, and it also allows for waste elimination. Squids have more arteries and veins than snails or clams, and a number of booster hearts. It does not have an open circulatory system. So I'm just looking at the internal it does not have, give me a second here while I look at the systemic heart. No, okay. So I'm not sure if your book has a I was going to say if it had an internal diagram of the squid, but if you were to look at that online, you could see that it does have a systemic heart, so it's not open. Circulatory system. All right. Let's see. The octopus has 8 tentacles with suction cups, and the octopus tend to hide in crevices, in rocks, and they move by jet propulsion. Okay, the brain is enclosed in a cartilage cranium, and it has big eyes as well. Let me just see what else we have here. So we talked about the eye of the squid and the eye of the octopus. The eye of the squid could be as big as 10 inches, and the octopus could also have a very big eye. But their eyes are complex. They have a cornea, lens, they have chambers, and they have the retina. Of the mollusks, they have the largest invertebrate brain, and again, we already discussed that they do have a closed circulation system. Some of the ways that these cephalopods can protect themselves, are through color changes. Their chromatophores, or their pigment cells, okay, allow them to change, allows them to blend into their background. They get to squirt, they also then, for protection, they will squirt out water by jet propulsion, which helps them escape their predators. And the squids also release an inky substance into the water. So how do they protect themselves? Color changes affected by chromatophores. Okay, color changes affected by pigment cells. That's all that word is. chromatophores. Chromatophores are just pigment cells. It allows them to blend in with their environment. So through chromatophores, jet propulsion, and inky substance, they protect themselves. Okay. Cephalopods, their reproduction is done, that the juveniles, the young, will actually be hatched from eggs. There's no free-swimming larvae. One arm of male removes a spermatophore from the mantle cavity and then inserts it into the female. Let's see. Alright. Let's just see if I have anything else written down. If I have anything else to add to this part. That was section 21.1. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're good here. Yeah, I think we're good here. So let's look at 21.1. What body characteristics do all mollusks have in common? Okay, you should be able to answer. All right, think about that. You should be able to write this down. You should have been able to say they have a muscular foot, a visceral hump, and a mantle. Alright. 3 broad groups of mollusks that are mentioned in the text. Alright, I told you that they were classified into 6, but we're only going to cover 3, and the 3 broad ones that are mentioned in your text are cephalopods, bivalves, and gastropods. Cephalopods, bivalves, and gastropods. Alright, and what is the purpose of a clam's abductor? What is the purpose of the clam's adductor muscles? Alright, you should be able to tell me. You want to write that down actually, so I'm giving you these in question form. You should be able to write them down, pause the video, write your answer down, come back, write the next question. What is the purpose of the clam's adductor muscle? And you should have it is to be able to close the muscle and to hold it shut. Alright. Very important job to do, because if the clam were to sense danger, it wants to be able to close that muscle and keep it shut. It doesn't want something to be able to pry it open. Okay. And why are univalve siphons important? Why are univalves? So now we're talking about only one shelled animals, or invertebrates, and now we're saying, well, why are their univalves important? Why are their siphons important? The siphons serve to move water in and out of the mantle cavity, and allowing the gills to obtain oxygen and to give off carbon dioxide. This action also serves to bring in particles of food. So when we talked before about sessile animals, okay, these siphons sort of act that way, where just through the siphons, through the currents, water coming in is allowed to, they're allowed to grab food, and then it moves it out. Okay, they're not necessarily going and obtaining their food, but it's just happening by a means of the water coming in and out of the in current and X current. What structure of a clam allows it to burrow into the sand? And how is the locomotion of a scallop different from that of a clam? And we actually didn't talk about this too much, but the foot of a clam allows it to burrow into the sand, and a scallop does not move by means of a foot, but rather swims rapidly, opening and closing its shells. So that's the difference in how they locomote. Let's go up here and see if I have. Alright, and I did tell you the largest known invertebrate. You should have had written down the giant squid. What is the largest known invertebrate? That is the giant squid. And what is the only cephalopod with an external shell? What is the only cephalopod, all right, with an external shell? So that's not asking you what is the only mollusk, because that wouldn't make sense right here. What is the only cephalopod with an external shell? And that is the nautilus. The nautilus. All right, so we are now going to look at section 21.2. Are we looking at section? Yes, echinoderms and rotifers. All right. Alright, so 21.2, these are spiny-skinned invertebrates, and they're known as echinoderms. So give me just a second to pull this up, because I have it on my computer here. And like this one. So echinoderms just means spiny skin, okay? Echinoderms usually inhabit shallow coastal waters and ocean trenches. Organisms in this class include sea stars, brittle stars, sand dollars, and sea cucumbers. Alright, so characteristics of echinoderms: they change from free-swimming bilaterally symmetrical larvae to a bottom-dwelling adult with radial symmetry. Okay, so what does that mean? So when they're young, they have bilateral symmetrical larvae, but as they get older, all right, they then become bottom-dwelling adults that have radial symmetry. Most have 5 radii or multiples, which is known as pentroradial symmetry. Pentroradial symmetry. Pent meaning 5, okay, and radial symmetry. And so that's evident if we look at the starfish right here and we want to count. Oh, I have to go backwards here. We'll never be able to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's all that meant. Pentaradial symmetry. They have an endoskeleton that is made up of calcium plates and may include protruding spines. Well, they definitely have protruding spines. The Echinoderms have small feet, and it aids in moving, it aids in feeding them, it aids in respiration and excretion. So let's make sure we understand that. They have small feet, alright, small tube feet, tube, T-U-B-E. They have small feet called tube feet that aid in movement, feeding, respiration, and excretion. They do not have a circulatory, respiratory, or excretory system. So this is all happening throughout, but there's no designated system taking care of each one of these. They have a nervous system, but no head or brain. They have a nervous system, but no head or brain. Sounds like a puzzle, doesn't it? So we're going to learn that that's actually because of a radial nerve that they have. There are two sexes when we talk about echinoderms, but they can reproduce either sexually or asexually. And we'll go over that. Let's see. Alright, no, we don't need to cover that. I don't know if your book actually goes into... Alright. No, I'm sorry, I'm just making sure that we... Alright, so when we talk about the echinoderms, and specifically we're talking about when we're talking about the starfish, we can say that their nickname is Astrodia, which just means star-like, Astrodia. Okay, you can hear the word astro in there, Astrodia. And they're found all over coastal shores all around the world. They prey on oysters, clams, and other seafood that is used by people. So the largest echinoderm class that we have is a snake-like. Okay, so those are in parentheses, a snake-like class, and the actual name for it, Ophiurodia. Ophiurodia. So let me spell that for you. It's Ophiuroidea. Ophiuroidea. And that is the largest echinoderm class. It includes basket stars and brittle stars. And these echinoderms reside under stones, in crevices, in holes of coral reefs. They have thin, brittle arms that break off and regenerate themselves quickly. They feed by raking food off the ocean floor with their arms and bottoms of their tube feet. And they also trap food with mucus strands between their spines. Okay, another Echinometra is from the Echinoidea, okay, and it's like hedgehog-like. And Echinoidea, this is just another class here, is Echinoidea. Alright, and these include your sand dollars and sea urchins. They have a rigid endoskeleton that the internal organs are compacted in. So it's rigid endoskeleton and their internal organs are compacted in. Aristotle's lantern, complex jaw-like mechanism that is used to grind food. So they have a structure called Aristotle's lantern, which is used to, which is a jaw-like mechanism that is used to grind food. They move by the way of tube feet. All right, and their protection, how are they protected from predators, would be barbs on their long spines that are sometimes venomous. So they can have barbed venomous spines. And we say that they are hedgehog-like because they look like they are a hedgehog. Oh. There we go. Like they're a hedgehog. Alright. Let's just see. So sand dollars, which we said was a part of this, phylum here, was also, they live along seacoasts and sandy areas. They are flat, round-shaped bodies, and they also will burrow in to shallow areas. So I mean, they will burrow in shallowly. They don't dig in deep, I mean, is what I'm saying. They just pretty much stay shallow, but they will burrow in. And they move around. Their locomotion is through short spines that also aid in burrowing and cleaning their bodies. So their short spines help them to move around. And they use tube to filter food in and out of water. Okay, so we have the Holothuridia. Holothuridia. And this is spelled Holothuridia. I'll repeat that. Holothuridia. And sea cucumbers belong in this class. Their bodies are soft, and they feed by the way of their tentacles. Around the mouth, they sweep up sediment from the water, and they protect themselves. Sorry, I think my cat was shooting. They protect themselves through. They eject internal organs through the anus. They eject internal organs through the anus. That's a sea cucumber. Lost parts are later regenerated, and the process is called evisceration. Alright, so what did that just say? How are they protecting themselves? When they get scared, they're going to eject an internal organ through the anus, and when that happens, their body is going to be able to sense what's missing, and then it's going to be able to regenerate. And that whole process is called evisceration. E-V-I-S-C-E-R-A-T-I-O-N. Evisceration. Let's see how much. Alright. So this is what you're going to want to know. So when we go over our starfish dissection, you're going to have a sort of just a little bit in your mindset about what structures are there. So you want to make sure that you definitely have this in your notes. But the body plan of a sea star or a starfish is they have an oral surface. All right. Their mouth is located actually on the underside of the starfish. So if we look at you're going to want to look at figure 21.10 in your textbook. And again, Noelle, you're just looking for that diagram or figure in your textbook. I'm not sure which, what number it is for you, but for the rest of you, it's 21.10. And you're going to look for the oral surface. The mouth is located on the underside of the body. The arboreal surface is the top of the body. The arboreal surface is the top of the body. And the ossicles are sharp protective spines, and they're made of calcium plates, and they're covered with a thin epidermal layer. So remember when we just talked about our epidermis, okay, we can say our skin, their calcium plates are covered by a thin epidermal layer. And the pedicellariae are tiny forceps that protect and clean the body surface. And this you'll be able to see when we actually do our dissection. But the pedicellariae is pedicellariae. Pedicellariae, and it's tiny forceps that protect and clean the body surface. So let's look at it's a water vascular system for the sea stars. Hydrostatic pressure is what permits movement. Hydrostatic pressure is what permits movement. So the water, the path of water enters a sieve plate, it passes through a stone canal, and then it traces a path from the ring canal encircling the mouth to 5 radial canals that extend to each arm. So if you can imagine, water is going to enter into that sieve plate, it's going to pass through a stone canal, and then there's going to be like a path that it has to actually follow, alright, so it gets to all 5 of the arms of the sea star. The ampulla, A-M-P-U-L-L-A, the ampulla is a bulb-like sac that each foot connects to. The ampulla, a bulb-like sac that each foot connects to. And the feet contract when water enters and are able to suction onto a surface of slippery rock. So feet contract, water enters, and then the feet are able to create a suction onto like slippery rocks. Alright. How does feeding and digestion actually occur? Well, the sea stars actually use their feet, and the sea stars will eat mollusks, worms, and slow-moving animals, and then there are so they actually like engulf it, okay, and then they will enzymes will actually help them digest their food. Similarly, you and I have enzymes as well that help us digest our food. All right. So other important parts for the sea star is the column, which bathes organs and distributes nutrients and oxygen. It has skin gills, which protect the column lining and gases that are exchanged. And then that nerve ring we talked about earlier, that we'll be able to see that pretty clearly in our dissection. But it basically surrounds the mouth and branches off into the nerve cords into each of the arm. And then the sea stars also have eye spots, E-Y-E-S-P-O-T-S, eye spots, on each arm that responds to light. And the tentacles will actually respond to touch.
Will you see
So,
an episode?
with the sea star and the reproduction, each arm produces sperm and egg, and it occurs externally. Bipinnaria are free-swimming larvae that fertilize egg and develops into the sea stars, and it settles in the bottom and develops into an adult through metamorphosis. And reproduction asexually by generating lost parts. So I think you already told the story of the sailors who were getting upset, and when they came across the sea stars, they were getting really mad, and so because they were getting caught up in the fishing nets and stuff of the sailors, and the sailors thought, ha, we'll fix you and we'll take these sea stars and we'll rip them in half and we'll throw them back out into the ocean. Well, they were multiplying, they were doubling what was already there then, because these sea stars were able to regenerate just by having even an arm thrown back in. So they're able to reproduce asexually. All right, so that is echinoderms. So let's look at your rotifers. Hold on one second. So I will probably finish up with rotifers today, just so I'm not keeping you any longer than our normal class time. But I would encourage you to read up through that point. I gave you guys a good introduction. You can read up through that point just to make sure that you understand where we are going from here. Hold on a second. Try this again. I'm not very interesting. Alright, let's just see what comes up here. So, looking for my notes and I don't know where they are, but alright, well, rotifers are microscopic invertebrates. Alright, they're found in freshwater lakes and ponds. Alright, their phylum name is Rotifera. Rotifera. And it just means wheel bearer. Wheel bearer. So we learned earlier that Anton van Leeuwenhoek discovered rotifers, okay, when he was looking at pond water, samples of pond water, okay, he classified them as animalcules, but we know through science and through being able to look at microscopic organisms, he was able to, we have been able to then since further break them down and give them specific names. So, yeah. So he discovered them in pond water. Okay, the way they actually move is through cilia. So there's like hair-like or finger-like projections on each one of these organisms that allow them to move through the water. And actually, so they're moving these cilia, and the current then is moving over them, if you will. Okay, so they are sisal-like animal, sisal invertebrates, and so water and other nutrients will come through them through this type of movement. Some rotifers will swim while others will not. Okay. Some will creep on the bottom, or some will float on the surface. All right. These tiny animals are common in pond culture studies. Let me just see here. Okay, so this animal, which is what they're saying is only has between 500 and 1,000 cells. Actually, is very complex in its makeup because it will consist of it will have a digestive system, which will consist of a mouth, a pharynx, a mastex, which is a grinding organ, an esophagus, a digestive gland, stomach, intestine, and cloaca. Waste are expelled in its body through an excretory system, which consists of two long tubes connected to a bladder, which empties into the cloaca. A rotifer has a brain which is quite large compared to the total size of the organism, and is okay. Connected to the brain are large nerves leading to sensory tufts located on the outside of the anterior front part of the rotifer. The sexes are separate and reproduce sexually. Some of the female's eggs are parthogenic, that is, they require no fertilization. These eggs are laid in the summer, and these eggs, the eggs laid in the winter, on the other hand, require fertilization to be viable. These eggs are different from summer eggs because they are protected from freezing by a thick shell. Rotifers are important to the aquatic realm because they clean up natural wastes and provide food for small crustaceans, which in turn provide food for fish and ultimately man. Alright, so that was on rotifers, and I apologize for having to read that to you, but I don't have my notes up on them, and I don't know why they weren't going to come up. That is... Oh, our class goes on. I did say I was going to finish up there, but I believe I lied. I'm sorry. What I want to look at with you were the segmented... No, actually, I think I will. I will finish up there with you. I will email you your homework assignment, so you'll be able to get started. But on Thursday, I'm going to come back. We're going to finish up this lesson on 21 and a review on the zoology section. And my kids, gotta love them. Yep. Does he not think I don't see him? Oh my goodness. Alright. See you later, guys. Bye. Sam, want to say goodbye?
And how?